ego and education. How ego affects our education as well as our capacity to learn. In the in the 13th century, Babar came to India and he brought ammunition and cannons, tofa. He won a number of wars based on this strength of his, which was not so well known in India. We had those Diwali fataka, and for enjoyment we used to use ammunition, but this kind of targeted cannons were not so common, especially cannons loaded on camelback. So this was a completely new education, new knowledge for us. The making of the ammunition, putting it in the cannons, making the cannons, then lighting the cannon, shooting the cannons, aiming properly, all this was a huge knowledge, and militarily it was indispensable, because that changed the character of the war itself, especially in North India and the plains. But when did you think Indians indigenized this knowledge? 1750, when Mahadaji Shinde started a manufacturing activity for cannons. 500 years it took us. Till then, it was only Gardis and other people who would be working on the Tofkhana or in the armored regiment. The Sardars, the higher level, higher educated people wouldn't go to the Dutch, to the Portuguese, to British to learn this art, because they were considered to be lower class, and our ego, how can I learn anything from that class? Same was the situation with navigation. We had Kanoji Angre, but our navigation was basically closer to the coastal area and not in the open sea. We did not have the mathematics necessary, we did not have the instruments necessary, we did not have the boats or ships necessary to go across seas. And that knowledge was all the way there, all the time it was there with the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French, and we kept on importing that knowledge. Even some of our ships were made by the Portuguese or the Dutch, and we really never learnt. We didn't go to England till much later. In the same way, there was the profession of scrap metal recycling, or later on acting in cinema, or liquor making, glass business. These are only some of the examples that I am giving where the ego was the biggest obstacle to education and to prosperity. And because of this, these professions became the domain of the few who left their ego aside and went and got this knowledge and applied that knowledge and created a monopoly in that area. Even today, it is happening. We don't want to pursue certain professions, we don't want to get education in certain areas because they are not very socially acceptable. But the fact is, 10 years down the line, those would be the professions which would be highest paying, and that is the time we would find ourselves wanting. So it is necessary for us at 5th standard, 6th standard, 10th standard level to understand what are the professions on the rise, what are the skills on the rise, what can we do to capture the market, which direction we should take, We need to study the market, we need to study the environment, we need to study the businesses and keep our ego aside and learn these arts or sciences or skills. We need to go abroad even to get these knowledge and then come back and employ it, apply it. If we don't do this, we would be repeating the history in a negative manner. We have a glorious past. If our future has to be so glorious, then we need to keep our ego aside, and as it is said, you can learn from anybody, doesn't matter who. It is time to practice that dictum. That is ancient wisdom. Namaskar.